Welcome to the channel. If you're new, my name's Nexor, this is Nexor Reacts, and you happen to be landing on part 2 of a 2-part compilation, but that's okay, you can start from this point, it's totally fine. If you are new though, please hit that subscribe button, become a part of the Awaken family, the best family on YouTube, and also, let's get the liking out of the way, hit that like button right now to get that over and done with so you don't have to interrupt your viewing experience later on. We're aiming for around 1,500 likes on this video, but without further ado, let's head on into it. We've got a lot to cover today. As much as I did, because guess what, we are about to do all of this again tomorrow with another batch of the strangest unexplained conspiracies and videos that I can find, so make sure you subscribe now and come back to join me for those. But for now, stay safe, stay well, and stay curious. Until next time.